Welcome to the Savvy Soothsayer Socratic Seminar. I am your host, Bartholomew. In today's seminar, we will discuss a number of prominent themes emphasizing the tragedy in Sophocles' play, Oedipus Rex, including the dichotomy between fate and free will, ignorance versus knowledge, and the duality of light and dark. This is gonna be a spicy one, kids, so buckle up. Introducing our first guest, Dr. Zayden Bach. He is unfortunately zooming in with us because apparently he's introducing his latest book, Ignorance is Bliss. Anyway, here he is.
Ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly be wise. So, what are we talking about again?
Bro, we just discussed this.
Right. When I think of fate versus free will, I like to think of the quote from the famous French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. He stated that man is condemned to be free, and because once thrown into this world, he is responsible for everything he does. So Jean-Paul Sartre took this idea from another French philosopher, and this French philosopher's name also began with Jean, because all smart French people have the name of Jean. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau was the guy who took it from, and his quote was, what was it again? Our man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. And we can see the relationship between this condemnedness in Jean-Paul Sartre's quote to the chains in the Jean-Jacques Rousseau's quote. So going back to Jean-Paul Sartre, because I don't want to get sidetracked, he believed that we are not made for a certain purpose in life. I had to catch myself there. We are not made for a certain purpose in life, and we are to choose our very own path in life and have to create our own purpose due to the fact that we are born with decision-making capabilities. As human beings, we make our own decisions, and this has been proven through much research from the psychological people or whatever. However, there are some strange people, who believe that our fate is predetermined before birth. And we have no power to change this. And this idea is linked
Do you think the Netherlands is fated to lose to Argentina?
Okay. The idea is linked to the ancient Greek belief in the power of the gods to dictate one's life and that the predestined fate is unavoidable. There are multiple examples, such as in Oedipus Rex and in just Greek mythology in general. So in particular, the Fates, who are a very important part of the Greek mythology, weave, measure, and cut life as they please. And this shows that the Fates control our lives, meaning that we have no control over how long we are to live or what's supposed to happen in our lives. And also in Oedipus Rex, there are many allusions made to this to perpetuate the peripecia and how Oedipus is controlled and his fate is controlled and played by the gods such as Apollo. However, like Sartre, I believe that our lives are based on our choices, and our fate is the outcome of these choices we make, because if fate is predetermined, nothing would matter. No one would need to strive for better, since everyone's life is already set in stone. And we always need to strive for better to make the world a better place, right? So clearly, our destinies are in our own hands. Thank you very much.
Right, amazing. So you're saying that we man our own helm, that we direct our own sail, while Sophocles' work embodies the opposite, that a divine wind directs our path.
Yes, that is quite a nice, trivial analogy that we can see throughout Oedipus Rex, as it references the sea and the ocean, and these islands, they lived upon the ocean. So very good, I like that. But all of these ideas, I talked about these in my new book, latest book. I actually have a collection of books, but this one is now titled my new favorite quote. It's called Ignorance is Bliss. And it's on the market for a very cheap $50, and I suggest all of you watching this, you should check it out.
Anyway, profound take, Dr. Bach. We'll check in with the others later.
Actually, forged my PhD because.
Now, let's meet our next guest, researcher Charles Richard Miller. So, what are your opinions on how the motif of blindness in sight strengthened the theme of ignorance versus knowledge throughout the play?
Oh, okay, first of all, bro, why did you say my name like that? Your name is literally Bartholomew, okay? Alright, whatever. So this is actually a pretty interesting topic, and I know a bit about it. Because, like, first of all, thinking critically and linguistics and metaphors in general, someone can be physically blind without losing their sight of the world. Like in Oedipus Rex, right? The prophet Tiresias was blind, yet he was more knowledgeable than anyone in the entire play. In fact, like, his prophecies and wisdom irritated Oedipus so much because Oedipus didn't want to believe them. Like, he was just completely ignorant. So this actually brings me to another point. Let's go!
Oh, sorry, I was just catching up on the latest game. So you were saying?
Are you an AI?
Am I Alexander Irving?
Okay, well, anyways. So my next point is how Oedipus and Tiresias are juxtaposed by Sophocles, right? So Oedipus has his actual eyesight, but he can't see the obvious truth right in front of him. Tiresias, on the other hand, lost his vision, but is like nearly omnipotent, right? It's quite ironic, actually. Both of them think that the other one is the blind one. And this still occurs today, right? Somebody might be ignorant, but not physically blind. And vice versa, right? Somebody might be unignorant, educated, or wise, but they might not have like their full eyesight or have some part of it impaired, right? That happens.
Yeah, I mean, indeed, this theme of a blind prophet, a blind seer is prevalent throughout literature. This accentuates irony. So thank you for your time, Charles. What was your name?
Oh, Richard Miller.
Charles Richard Miller. Now on to the last guest. Now for our final guest, the great Maxwell. Maxwell? Okay, so following what our previous guest, Charles Richard Miller, described, could you briefly explain how the theme of ignorance versus knowledge is emphasized through irony throughout the play?
Very well. Well, the concept of ignorance itself is just absolutely begging for irony, right? Because once one is left in the dark, they will often make poor decisions or decisions that age poorly relative to the truth or the quote-unquote bigger picture of what is happening, right? So let's look to Oedipus Rex as an example. So Oedipus was blissful and was happy while he was ignorant. Yet this led to a cascade of ironic events because he called others around him, like Creon and Tiresias, he called them criminals. He tells Tiresias that he is blind, while Oedipus is really the one that is blind. So we see a lot of duality between light and dark here because he thinks that he is in the light and scorns others for quote-unquote not being able to see the light. Yet this is ironic because he is really the one who cannot see the light. And light is just the metaphorical embodiment of a truth or of reality as it alludes to Apollo, which he can't see. Because metaphorically he's blind because he rejects reality and returns to his bubble of ignorance. So ignorance just really sets the premise for irony, while knowledge, on the other hand, simply only brings suffering. Refer back to Oedipus Rex, how the unraveling of his tragic truth was suffering. Before he found out the truth, he was living a blissful life, right? He was king of Thebes. He had everything that he wanted, but around the end of scene 2, we start to see the start of his peripeteia, where his life takes a turn for the worse once his truth begins to unravel, and we see this in the anagnorisis of a play as well. Basically, when the entire truth is unraveled, he gouges out his own eyes and exiles himself. So we see the negative impacts of this as well. Tiresias says to finalize this concept of the truth bringing suffering, which contrasts to ignorance, which brings dramatic irony. How dreadful knowledge of a truth can be when there's no help in truth.
Ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly be wise.
Thank you for that, Dr. Dr. Bach. Yeah, so I mean, this quote really brings the dual nature of ignorance to light, right? So though living in ignorance creates an illusion of comfort, in reality, this reality existing outside of this bubble is filled with suffering and darkness. So I mean, in the play Oedipus Rex, we see this as Oedipus's hamartia, right? He seeks to find this truth, to locate this truth for the sake of his people, even when he can lead a life of blissful ignorance, as his wife Jocasta suggests, and his mother, in fact. For our final guest, the great Maxwell. Could you briefly explain how the theme of ignorance versus knowledge is emphasized through irony throughout the play?
Very well. Well, the concept of ignorance in itself, just begging for.
Dude, oh my.
Wait, okay. What about the ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly be wise?
Yeah, we have to record that separately. Ignorance, when he says ignorance is bliss.
Mark, you just actually we can literally just say it right now.
Yeah, just okay. Shh, everyone.
What?
Okay,
Oh,
good. Oh shoot, we forgot the last part.